Hello and welcome to this edition of Soulful Scrutiny. With me in the studio today is Mr. Irwin Clare, who is originally from the country of Jamaica. Mr. Clare is the CEO and founder, I'm going to make sure I get this right, of Caribbean Immigrant Services. He's also the CEO and founder of Team Jamaica Bickle, which is an organization that raises money to help athletes and coaches for things that depend relay from different, not just Jamaica, but different islands. He is also advisor to the Minister of Foreign Affairs for Jamaica diasporal issues.
Former.
Former.
Yes.
Okay. Also involved with the NAACP. He is also a host to a radio show called Fact of the Matter. And that airs on 93.5 FM from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Here in the New York area. Is it particular days or every day?
On
Sundays?
And also moving forward, which is also on the same platform every Mondays through Thursdays from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m.
To 8 p.m. the same show.
Yeah.
Okay. You have been instrumental in having over 100,000 people become citizens of the United States, and thereby allowing them to participate in the political process. Because without citizenship, of course, we can't participate in the political process. You also conduct immigration forum in the Caribbean to kind of give the governments there an idea of how important and intricate immigration is to us, because it is one of our mainstay in terms of economic survival.
Correct.
Now, the reason that I asked you to come on the program, we are facing some pretty serious political change, climate change in this country. Recently, of course, everyone knows Donald Trump, now President Trump, have become the President of the United States, and one of the first things we saw within a week or so of his presidency were different executive orders, one of them banning people from several countries, and my understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is some of those people were people with green cards. That also got caught up in that whole melee of things that were happening around the country. And I spoke to several Caribbean people, and they said to me, well, that doesn't impact us, it's just Muslims. And I always have this thing that if your neighbor's house is on fire, wet yours. Because there might be things about this current climate, political climate, that might affect us, even though he didn't sign an executive order saying that it's going to affect us. So I just wanted to bring someone like yourself, because you're so involved in this process, to kind of answer some questions. Like, for instance, what is the impact and is there any impact that this current situation can have on us as immigrants? Are there other things regarding the immigration issue that could be impacting Caribbean immigrants?
Thank you very much for having me on this program, and I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you for providing opportunities for our listeners and viewers to get information that is pertinent to their cause. And I want to start off by making a statement, and I'm copying this from an article I read recently from a news item, and it goes like this: first they came from Muslims, and I did not speak out because I was not a Muslim. Then they came for the undocumented immigrants, and I did not speak out because I was not an undocumented immigrant. Similar words were made back in the early 20s, 30s in the Holocaust for Jews. And as you correctly said, President Trump's executive order that has impacted some 7 Muslim countries, putting a ban. They can call it any which way they want to call it. It's a ban. It has prohibited persons from those countries, and even persons who may have had linkages to those countries, may have traveled there, from re-entering the United States without vetting that in many cases will deter them from coming here. Mm-hmm. To say that as a Caribbean national, to say that because our islands were not a part of it, to say that it doesn't impact us, then would be to be a contributor to my opening remarks. Mm-hmm. Our heads are buried in the sand. Yes, it does have an impact. Mm-hmm. If our Muslim brothers and sisters are part of our family, we are part of their family. Mm-hmm. And for the whole setup as what we call the whole immigrant experience, we all experience similar situations.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas many people like to define us as documented, undocumented, and the term I choose not to use, illegal immigrants, it behooves us to remind those of us here in the United States who may feel that somehow this country belongs to them, that the real owners of this country are the Native Americans.
Native Americans, yeah.
And we have seen how they're being treated.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
We're here.
Right.
And recognize that President Trump, respectfully speaking, has his right to determine based on his interpretation and his support base as to who should be here. It does not say that we should just sit back and take it lightly.
Right.
But I must caution our people that we cannot just agonize, we have to organize.
Mm-hmm.
And it is at that now that we say that the executive order, whereas it doesn't have a direct impact to us, it impacts us. Because there are amongst us persons of Muslim background from the Caribbean region,
Mm-hmm.
number one. There are persons who with green cards who may have had an impediment from the Caribbean. And then there are those of us who are undocumented and who are in need of immigration relief. So yes, it does have an impact.
Mm-hmm. Okay, it does have an impact. Now, I came to this country on a visitor's visa many years ago, 30-something years ago, and stayed on, like many people find themselves now in this country, but I was able to legalize my status at some point. It has become more and more difficult, even under other presidents, for that process to provide a way, or for a way to be provided for people with an undocumented status to get documented. I hear a lot of things that President Trump was saying, like America Force. And that troubles me a bit, because that's almost starting to sound like America Force, and then anybody else who is outside of America is going to be cut out. Mm-hmm. At least that's the message that I get when I hear that.
You're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
In fact, he ran on what was called a nativism platform, where it's about closing the borders, it's about border protection, it's about persons of the inkling that they want within the system. In fact, if you might recall, when he came out with his 10-point plank on immigration, there are two issues in there that jumped out at me, and not to say the others weren't of concern. Border issues is of concern to me too. I do not promote undocumented immigration.
And we want to make that clear.
Yes.
Because I don't know why people would want to give up their jobs and come to a country in this country and be here illegally. So we're not advocating that.
No, we're not.
But if you're here already,
right.
Or you have a green card,
Right.
and
yes, you see, the point is that it's not that we don't know why they would do that. People do that largely because of economic reasons.
that is true.
All right?
That is
And
true.
many times these economic reasons are driven by the policies of these United States. That's why people flood here.
How so?
Because when you look at a border nation such as Mexico, where you have many major United States companies in Mexico, why are they there? They're there because of cheap labor. They're there because maybe the Mexican economy cannot afford to provide a living standard that is worthy to these folks. And if they're across the border to a major company, a country that is in high demand for labor in their agricultural areas and into jobs that Americans will not do.
Right.
If we want to continue to have lettuce at the price we have it, or apples at the price we have it, understand that a lot of undocumented immigrant labor go into making that happen. So there's going to come a point in this country when we must recognize something. Do we allow migrant workers to provide the services that we will not do in order for us to maintain the level of rates we pay for products? Or do we close the border off and send your children to go pick the apples?
We're going to want more money, and then it goes after the cost of the food.
Okay, so that's what the economic situation is all about. So we can talk about all these trade and how these trade deals are bad and it's the worst trade deals. But at the end of the day, American consumers want produce and they want it at the cheapest possible price.
Right. And that's driving that need for people to come across. And,
so coming
and
back to the whole situation, the United Way, in this immigration 10-point plan, he mentioned something about going back to the immigration situation or position back to 1965. What happened in 1965? Well, in 1965, the Immigration and Naturalization Act, also known as the Hart-Celler Act, abolished an earlier quota system based on national origin, established as a new migration policy based on reunited families here. Prior to that date, it was easy for Europeans to enter the United States.
Right.
People like yourself and I did not have that opportunity. That particular act cleared the way for that to happen.
Okay.
He wants to revert back to that. So right away it tells you his mindset of the type of immigrant he wants in this country.
So you don't think he's opposed to immigrants, but it's the color or type of immigrants?
Yes,
Okay.
and I say this because let's not forget that our respectful president, wife, is also
An immigrant.
a naturalized citizen. Meaning that she entered the country like many on a green card, remained here and adjust her status.
Right.
Coupled with that same process we just spoke about, remaining here and adjusting one's status. He also would like to see those people who came in on a visa and overstayed remove themselves from the country before they can adjust their status. That would mean, for the Caribbean region, where that is an avenue that many people from the Caribbean, I only speak from the Caribbean perspective, get their green cards. That would mean that a lot of people would be cut off. That is one of the plans he's going on. Is he going to do it? I do not know.
You don't know, right.
But if he has been saying, these are the things I have been saying on the campaign trail,
Right.
then we should
believe that he might do it.
We should believe it.
So the thing is this. Make sense for us about what happened with those airports and those protests that we saw with people being detained. Because I'm still confused about what happened.
What?
So can you make some sense for us on that? What happened?
Let's understand that in this country, any kind of serious civil rights and any kind of benefits that has been derived when governments go contrary to what people sees as their need has resulted in demonstrations. It has proven to work. It has proven to work because so what you find is that yes, one may come out with an order, but if the mass and there is sufficient to provide such impact comes out and show their opposition to it, yes, you can have rollbacks. And we have seen where he has stepped back from some of his initial scenarios as it relates to the impact of what it would have on green card holders. So we have seen pushbacks there. Is it sufficient? Not necessarily so, but it has given impetus to those who are out there in the struggle. And they will continue because we still have a significant opening here, and that is what will be the status of the 14 million undocumented immigrants in this country.
Right. Now, what was happening at the airport? Tell us exactly what was that. Was he holding back green card people?
No. What had happened is
what happened?
The executive order would have gone off, and he has always mentioned that he's not going to give anyone any heads up as to what he's doing, and he just did that. But he not only didn't give anyone any heads up, he didn't give his own organization, his own departments a heads up. So you find that there are people who... There's something here that was brought to our attention that before a person leaves St. Vincent to come to the United States, a flight manifest apparently sent to the FAA, and then whoever here, the Department of Homeland Security, checks all the manifests to see who's coming in. They will not allow that plane to leave St. Vincent until that is cleared.
Right.
All right. So therefore, they would have done their due diligence to see who's en route to the United States. Either stop them before they physically leave,
right,
or if they're in the air by the time they land, they are greeting them with persona non grata.
Right.
So therefore, the executive order was passed that from these countries, these persons would be barred from entering the United States, including all Syrian refugees.
Wow.
So there have been some in flight. Some were already getting to board, and already here. So by the time they get here, the order is in force.
So this did not affect green card holders who are already living here.
No. If you're already here, you're in the system.
No, green card holders who are here but might have gone to those
yes,
places.
It did.
So it did, because I thought I heard that.
Yes, it did.
Okay.
So those persons were also held in abeyance. Those persons were held, and through the impetus or the involvement of certain judges, put a block on it. They're allowed to come into the states. I think there are some 109 or 200 persons, whatever the number was. But they were all eventually released because of
the federal courts there.
But they all had to go through what is called intense vetting.
And for green card holders, they go through one of the most intense vetting to begin with. So why would you be vetting them a second time?
Well, because again, and if you follow the rationale, they're coming from countries that are deemed to be enemies of the state. So the question would be, what did you go home for? So they want to find out what you went home for. That's why you kept hearing all these things about people want to look at their social media sites and see what. Hey, we live in a world today where the security of the nation is of paramount importance. The question is, how do you do it? Do you do it in a discriminatory manner, or do you do it in a civil manner? Well, that's a decision for them to make. That's what happened there.
Now, let's get into something with immigration, because you're from Jamaica, I'm from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and I came here, I was telling you before we started the program, that I came here on a visitor's visa some 30-something years ago, and of course overstayed my time, and then eventually was able to find a way to legitimize my status. And here I am, 30-something years later.
A contributor to the economy.
Exactly. Yes. So I've never one day not been out there working hard, taking care of myself.
And you always pay your taxes.
And I always pay my taxes.
Okay.
And most of us from the Caribbean who come to these shows, we come here for economic reasons. Let's talk, for instance, a little bit about Haiti, a country where there's some of the most hardworking people. But oftentimes they're turned back, but we see others are let in. Now, what advice would you give to people in the Caribbean, whether it's Haiti, whether it's St. Vincent, whether it's Jamaica, who are looking to come here? What advice do you have? Like, for instance, I'm not even sure who can sponsor who.
Okay.
What ways are there for them to legitimize their status?
Okay. There are two primary ways that one seek residence in the United States. Through what is called a family petition process, reuniting process, which was what the Act of 1965 allowed for us, or through employment.
Okay.
Those are the two primary areas. There are some other areas, but not significant in numbers of results. And then there are those that allows you temporary work opportunities here that can lead to legal regularization. Right. In the family category, as it is today, if you are a parent in the United States and you have a child outside of the United States who's under 18, under 21, and you're a citizen, you can petition for that child, and that child is in the United States within a year.
What if you just have a green card?
If you have a green card, you can petition for that child, but it is in what is called now a situation where there are certain allotments of visas for each category. It's in a preferential class.
Okay.
Depending on the backlog and depending on how many people are in, yes, anywhere from 1 year to 6 years, that child can be here.
With a green card?
With a green card.
So you advise people to, if you're living here, you have a green card, you've already been vetted, get your citizenship.
Well, that's one. But I also say to you that if you just got your green card and you have a child, as long as you're single, and I must say, as long as you're single, put in a petition for that child. Start the clock.
As long as the child is single?
Yes, as a green card holder.
Okay.
All right. Start the clock going.
So if you have all the children above 21, you can't sponsor them?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
All right.
What are the conditions?
It's the same situation again. They must be single. All your children must be single once you're petitioning for them as a green card holder. All right.
What if you're a citizen?
If you're a citizen, if the child is married, then you can petition for that child.
Oh, that's important.
Yes. So you have situations where, for example, as a green card holder, you petition for a child, and the child goes off, falls in love, and get married. That petition is dead.
Okay.
All right. And many times our community are not aware of that, and they're still thinking they have a legit petition. It's dead. They have to open.
So if mom and dad or mom or dad files for you, they're citizens, they file for you, you are single, and then you go off and get married, that petition is dead.
Yes.
Okay.
If mom and dad went out and become a citizen, then you move to a different class.
what happens when mom and dad, or mom or dad was a green card holder? They started sponsoring their children, and then they become citizens.
All right. If
Does
they
that speed it up?
Yes, if they become citizens. Okay, let's different variations here now.
Mm-hmm.
If the parents are citizens before the children are 18 and the children had a green card,
Mm-hmm.
the children gets derivative status. That's why we're on this campaign to encourage parents who are citizens and your children are under 18 and they have their green card, the child gets what is called derivative status.
Right.
That is very important.
Okay.
That once you qualify for citizenship, put it in so that if you can safeguard your child, you do that, because now you rid them of the possibility of deportation if they should
Have some
commit
kind
a
of
crime.
infraction.
Right.
Yes.
All right. No. Let's say the child you're being petitioned. The parents go on and become citizens, and the child is over 18.
Mm-hmm.
Then the child would not qualify. The child would have to get citizenship on their own.
Okay.
And have a green card for at least 5 years.
Right.
All right. Now, what I want to mention here is this: the other category is that if, for example, you're single and very rich and all the trappings that that your spouse would be looking for, potential spouse, and he's down there in Mespo, and you go down and get married. He can be here within a year because he's in an immediate category. Because a citizen spouse petitioning for their spouse outside of the country, they get through within a year.
Okay, that one went over my head.
You're married.
I'm married.
You go to St. Vincent, get married to your long-time boyfriend.
I did. Okay.
All right.
Well,
you petition
I'm
for
married
him.
from somebody from St. Vincent.
You
Yeah.
petition for him. He is here within a year because he's considered in the immediate category, similarly to a child who's under 21.
I got you.
All right?
Got you. Okay.
No, the same situation can also hold true for a green card holder. Because it always also depends on how many green cards are available in that category. We find that we see applications these days where green card holders petitioning for spouses outside of the country get through within a year as well. And of course, if it doesn't happen within the year and the spouse becomes a citizen, then it accelerates it. That's for applications where you're talking about bringing the person into the United States.
Okay.
There's a difference as it relates to being in the United States and who can be petitioned for. So to answer your question, the categories of petition: spouses, parents for children, children over 21 who are citizens can petition for parents.
Okay.
All right. And sibling petition, which is sister, brother.
Does that take a long time with the siblings?
It takes 12 years.
So it depends on the degree of a spouse the relationship, because like a spouse that's really paramount. Your parents might
Those
be
are
next.
called the nuclear family. Nuclear family are parents, children under 21, and spouses.
Oh, okay. And anything after that can still be done, but it's not
preferential.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Okay. So these are things that people need to know, so that
and I want to go back to the sibling petition. Many people will frown on it. If that is the only thing open to you, and you still have aspirations, your relative aspirations to enter the United States, I say put it in. And the reason why I say put it in for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's an insurance policy. Number two, it doesn't mean that something else could happen. You could find out that you have a child born here in the United States, 21 years later the child can petition for you. It's quite possible.
Right.
Number three, you live in St. Vincent. It's a tourist haven, so many people are going there all the time. You fall in love and get married. Somebody petitions for you. We also know too that is one of the categories that could be eliminated. And if they should do that, you'd want to be caught in the system than to be outside the system.
Right, because if it happens before you get there, it's not going to be applicable.
If you didn't get in right time, they cut off because you'd have been grandfathered.
Right.
And they'd want to clear off the backlog, so you'd be lucky there. So again, I say to folks that if the only immigration opportunity exists for you is between a sibling petition, and you're saying it's going to take 12 years, don't look at it from that perspective. Look at it from the perspective of putting it in as an insurance policy. And let the dice roll.
And let the dice roll.
Yes.
Okay, so that's, and then for the employment, it would be what, someone who have special skills?
Yes,
that probably.
see, that now becomes a little tricky here now. The United States, and it goes by states. It's not a federal. The only thing federal here is the amount of green cards that are allotted. It's usually through what is called a H-1B program, all right? Where you find that yes, companies can directly petition for you, but you find that many companies aren't doing that these days. They're going through the H-1B process, and it's primarily for highly skilled individuals.
Okay. Wow, interesting. So these things are very important to know. Now let me talk a little bit about your citizen immigrant services. So let's say somebody's here and they want to be able to sit down with you and probably have a lot more questions than we're covering right here. What is the phone number for
Caribbean Immigrant Services?
Caribbean Immigrant Services.
Caribbean Immigrant Services the telephone number is 523-2861. We're located 718 523 2861.
2861.
Yes. And
Okay.
we're located at 242-14 Merrick Boulevard in Rosedale, Queens.
242-14
in Rosedale, Queens.
in Rosedale, Queens. Okay, so that's the information, folks, in case you want to give Mr. Irwin Clare and his group a call to answer questions and have a consultation. Now, do they have to pay a fee when they consult with you?
we are a for-profit entity. We gave up the not-for-profit situation a long time ago because we were never funded by city.
And you have to support yourself, yeah.
And all that to support the services that are required.
Well, that's what I mean, support the organization.
And so, yes, there is a small consultation fee, but we do not turn back anyone.
Right. Yeah. So you'll consult with anyone?
Yes.
Well, so whether you think you have a case or not in terms of being legalized in this country?
And if we can't handle it, we source it for you and make sure that you understand what your rights are. Because as you know, in our community, the avenue that provides for the fastest exit of our capital is immigration services. Meaning that my Jewish brothers and sisters will cater to their Jewish attorneys. My Irish does the same. You know, my Italians do the same, and Caribbean nationals go to everybody and forget that our children are also attorneys, or we within our community have professionals that are just as proficient, and we need to change that paradigm.
You need to change that, right. I remember sponsoring my adopted daughter. She was 16 and a half, and I do understand what you're saying in that when she came to this country, that she immediately got citizenship within less than a month. They did not give her a green card. She did a little swearing in, but it wasn't anything with a test. No. And she was a citizen.
So that is the process.
Right. I also got married to someone from St. Vincent.
It was a true story.
It was a true story. And he came here on a student visa, and eventually, you know, we got married right after he came. We were already dating, and of course, and then I was able to sponsor him. Yes. So, you know, I do understand the system a little bit, but I don't think I know all the intricacies that you guys would have. And so, if people are here, what do you want to say to people who
are in the system?
Who are in the system? Because this is the problem. They're already here. And we could say, well, I don't know why people might give up their job and come. They're here. Yes. And if people's lives are going well in their country of birth or where they're from, I don't think people just come here for the heck of it.
No.
A lot of times it's like economic reasons.
Yes. You see, I've always said, Trish, that we are here not because of the sand and the beach, because we left the best back there. So we come here for our children.
Right.
It is always for our children. The typical Caribbean nationals' pension plan are their children. We put everything into our children.
That is so true. We put a lot of investments.
Yes.
If you look at the private schools in this country, most of the black children that go there are Caribbean children.
You will not necessarily have significant monies put in pension plan. It's in our children's education.
Yes, that is so true.
All right. So we come here to better the lives for our children, because it is a mantra that we have a responsibility to make it better for our children than it was for us.
Right.
That's what was ingrained in me as a child.
Right.
You know? And so we come here, and in so doing, what happens? we buy homes, we invest in our community, we make our communities better, because that is all part of making it better for our children.
Right.
Is it?
I remember in Living Colors, they used to have a character on there that she would play Jamaican, and she said, "Me has 6 jobs."
Okay.
But we are so hardworking, and we juggle so many things
Yes.
that we became a character show.
Yes,
You know, people
yes,
start joking. I mean, it's a
but
good joke.
But it's real.
And it's real, but it's a
real.
good.
Because
I don't mind
when
being
you
teased
look
about
around
that.
in your communities, and yes, we're boasting about this, but we're doing it from a civil and respectful manner. The homes are purchased by us. And when we purchase a home, we make it better than it was before.
Yes, we are known for keeping our property up very well.
Fact. All right? We also have, we go out, and we are also astute savers. Because we understand that we have to pull up our own bootstraps.
Right.
You see, the challenge that many Caribbean people may have is that we have not, and we did not become astute politically as we should in order to safeguard the gains that we make, and even to leverage to go further.
Right.
That continues to elude us.
Yes, that is true. One of the reasons, that's so interesting you said that, one of the reasons that I came up with this concept, with this network, QX Television, Cultural Experience Television, is because of that very reason. The reason that I wrote my first book is because of that very reason. I felt like we were such a hard-working group, but we are almost just relegated to little caricatures, and we're pushed to the side. We're not seen as a very, I wouldn't say vibrant, because we are vibrant in terms of organized. But we're not really exposed to the political system.
But and the irony is that when you think of it, there's a saying that was coined that we are plentiful in our littleness, but collectively weak. You'll find us individually in strategic positions in all strata of life.
Yes.
You'll find a Caribbean person in all strata of significance, whether it be academics, medicine, business, transportation, you name it. We're there, but somehow we have not managed to.
We don't pool our resources together
and connect the dots.
Yes. That is so true.
Yes.
That is so true. And there's power in that. So I'm very encouraged that you're talking about people becoming citizens. We want to address that a little bit more, because you can't vote with a green card.
No, you cannot. Not in city and federal and state elections. There are some municipalities that allows that.
Right.
But as part of one's civic duty and one's civic responsibility, in giving respect to adult suffrage and what our foreparents died and fought and died for, it is incumbent on us that when we qualify for citizenship, we do so. I mean, there's a saying, when we started back in 1995, 96, this whole citizenship drive from Caribbean Immigrant Services, the move then as a group.
So you've been there since 1995?
We've been doing this whole aspect, yes.
Oh, yeah.
And my partner and I, Winston Tucker Esquire, the whole idea was to inform, educate, and cause to action. People to become citizens, register to vote, and vote. And we are quite pleased with the results, yes, and we have to give credit to those who participate. Thousands of Caribbean nationals have become citizens, and we have impacted many. As Mr. Donald Trump would say, bigly.
Bigly.
But the point, I shouldn't do that. But the point here is that there are still pockets of people who did not.
Right.
And in some cases it resulted in family members being deported when they did not have to be deported.
Right.
In some cases it resulted where criminal indiscretions have now become challenges to their existence and did not have to be.
They have to be.
So we are saying to people, before you go down that alleyway and you qualify for citizenship, if you hear nothing else from this program here tonight, the message taken away from this is that if you qualify for citizenship, how do you qualify? If you're married to a U.S. citizen for at least 3 years and have your green card for 3 years, you can put in your application 3 months prior to the 3rd year. That's one.
Okay.
But both you and your spouse must file taxes together. Tax compliance is of importance. Number 2, if you have your green card for 5 years and you have been a good citizen in this country, then you qualify to apply for your citizenship, and that too
On your own.
on your own.
At that point, it
And that
doesn't
too-
matter if you're married.
It doesn't
Okay.
matter. That, and at that point you can apply as well 3 months prior to.
To the fifth year.
Citizenship is now taking 7 to 9 months. We suspect that citizenship and all immigration benefits that one applies for is going to take longer because of more in-depth vetting, one, but also the shift of manpower in the Department of Homeland Security from these type of benefits to enforcement.
Okay. Okay.
So we must be aware
So
of that.
must be aware of that.
So now is the time.
Now is the time to do that.
Yes.
So this is a lot of very powerful information. So your radio show, you said, is 8 to 8 p.m. I want to say that again. 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. and 93.5 FM on Sunday nights, and pretty soon it'll be from 7.
Well, no, we're on now. I have a program called Moving Forward. This is our
So
second,
this one is Fact of the
Fact
Matter, and then Moving Forward
is on Mondays to Thursday from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m.
and the same station,
93.5
93.5 FM.
Yes.
Okay, so I want to put that information out there. So you might want to tune in and listen to Mr. Clair and his. So now you work with what, immigration attorneys?
Yeah, well, my partner is Winston Tuck is an immigration attorney.
Mhm.
We do a lot of immigration processing, and where necessary we source persons who may have a criminal aspect to their immigration, because
Mhm.
largely immigration processing is civil. But there are some unfortunate amongst us who may have certain criminals.
They might be young and have done something crazy.
Yes,
and
so
yeah.
those require the intervention of an attorney.
Okay,
Yes.
like a criminal type attorney.
Immigration.
Immigration
Yeah,
attorney, but yeah.
immigration, yes.
Mhm. But some people, this brings up a next question. Do you always need an attorney
No.
to do your paper? Do you
No,
that?
no.
Who do you?
Okay. This
Who are the people that you would suggest
Okay.
should come to an attorney, or,
Alright.
and who are the people who don't necessarily have to go to an attorney?
let me tell you how I answer that question.
Mhm.
If I'm not feeling well, I can say I know my body.
Mhm.
I know what to do. You make a determination whether you need to go to the doctor or not.
Right.
All right. In many situations, what we're providing is convenience.
Mhm.
Persons. We have been doing this for quite some time now. The forms are quite straightforward. However, there are certain technicalities. If you do not understand, then you could have some issues. And the Department of Homeland Security is not there to correct you.
Mhm.
You know, it is
Right.
understood that you know what you're doing.
And if you file documents that are not filled out correctly,
It will be rejected.
it will be rejected. And do you get your monies back?
Not necessarily. It all depends at what stage. You know, you could find yourself just going in the queue in a continuous
Right.
circle.
So it's important to get it done right.
It is, and
So if you're someone who may not be able to understand the complexity of that document,
Yes.
then you seek help with
Yes,
someone who
yes,
can
yes,
help.
Yeah, it is always said that a surgeon never operates on himself.
Exactly. And if you're someone who had any kind of infraction with the law,
Then you should always get
an
yourself
attorney.
legal advice.
Legal advice.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. So green card holders go out to get your citizenship.
Yes, it's very important.
If you are someone who is here as a citizen and you have children in the Caribbean, I'm trying to recap some of the highlights that we talked about, and you have children in the Caribbean, they're under 21, you should be filing for them so you can get them here. They can become citizens without going through the whole long process of waiting. Of course, if you have a fiance or somebody in the Caribbean, filing for them, that's a good idea because
and those things still continue. What we say to people now is that they must be quite mindful of fake news. Something that was made popular in a campaign by even our president here has become part of our lifestyle these days. So there's a lot of information floating around there as to what's happening and stuff. But
because I'm confused, I tell you the truth. That's what
Yeah.
I wanted to give the audience some information, but even I was not clear on some things
Right.
because a lot of stuff going on, and some of it is hyped up, some of it is like you said, fake news. But so I figured let me get somebody who understands this better, and who could really come and break it down
yes.
and make me understand. If you could make me understand, I'm sure the audience would understand.
Right. Because you see, the point here is that again, immigration is a very important aspect in our lives, cultural, economical, social, and because of immigration, many of us are able to to take care of our families, not only here, but the duality in families here and abroad.
And abroad, because we take care of family at the Caribbean. We take care of family here, we take care of the family here, and we have the family back home.
That's right.
That we're helping to.
That's right. You know, so there goes the challenges. So it is very important to us. So if you do not understand something, seek advice. There are some very good churches that provide these kind of outreach. York College, for example, have a very good immigration forum that takes place there.
When?
You just reach out to York
College.
Yes,
okay.
You know, I mean, we live in a world today, Trish, where social media provides you with the same information you are caught up with everybody else's business. Spend the time and research.
Right.
Before you make decision, do your due diligence. You know, make sure you are comfortable with those you're working with. And if you get referrals, some persons refer you, make sure you have confidence in that person as well. Because sometimes those persons you consider friends are not necessarily the type of friends you need to have.
You need to have, that's true. That's true. Now, in terms of how people make the decision to retain an attorney or not, I don't know if it's happening now, but I know back in my day, a lot of people started out with attorneys who basically took most of, if not all of their money up front and didn't deliver. So what advice do you have for people who might be trying to get documented, how to be wary of what type of attorney you're getting, or legal advice or legal services that you're getting?
You see, again,
that's when you're paying, because when you're paying, you know.
The mantra is always, it's you have to do your research. You have to. It's like buying a house. You have to be cognizant. Buying a car, it's the same situation. Know your persons you're working with. Do your research. There are many entities that are on radio who will advertise and will do things. I've always said this. It always behooves me that within our community, and I'm on a station too where you find lots of persons advertise their products and their services. And we don't hear a lot coming from the Caribbean community.
Right.
All right?
We buy everybody's stuff.
We buy everybody else's stuff. And because the person may be on radio telling you information and all that, yes, they provide good service, but they provide services at a premium. And I know that amongst our community, that we have a tendency, it's okay to pay the man $10,000, and he rips you off, you are quiet about it. But if in our community someone makes an error, it is big news.
Right.
All right? And rightfully so. But I'm saying here, though, is this. For all those persons who come into our community and advertise and tell you how great they are, and yes, they're great, you must stop and look at the company and say, have you ever seen them involved in community activities?
Right. Right.
Do they worship with you? Do they come to your church and are part of
would
the
they be
fabric?
caught dead in your neighborhood?
Yeah, would.
That's a big one.
Okay. Do they come to your little league? Do they sponsor things?
Know where you're spending your money.
Know where you're spending your money.
Right.
Because what happens, Trish, is that many times those folks will find themselves in challenges. They come back to community-based groups like ourselves or to churches like ourselves to no fend for them.
That is true. That is true.
So I'm just saying here, if we begin to develop that type of philosophy and understanding that the community is only stronger when we work together.
It is true.
And a strong community means it's beneficial for all. Then we'll be one step
ahead of the game. That is so true.
Yes.
That is so true. So do your homework, folks. I think that is the lesson that I'm getting from this. Do your homework. Make sure you know who you're getting. I always tell people the best way to get a good person, whether it's somebody who's fixing your house or your car, is if you know somebody who's used those services. That's one thing I suggest. But sometimes you're not always able to do that, but that's a good way to go. So Caribbean Immigrant Services has been in business since 1995.
Correct.
Serving the Caribbean and trying to get people to that pathway of getting documented, as well as getting citizenship and being empowered and being part of the political process in this country. I can't tell you, Irwin, how many young people, and I'm still disappointed, young black people, Caribbean black people, who have said to me, I didn't vote. You know, I can't tell people who they should vote for, but I think you should always be a part of that process.
And I blame
then you shouldn't complain.
I blame their parents.
Like my daughter would never think of not voting.
So I blame their parents.
Yes, I agree. Because my children will not think I mean, my mother said, I am not going to vote. I'm 80 years of age. I don't feel. And I flew up from the Caribbean. I said, if you have children, you have grandchildren. If you don't vote, whatever happens, don't complain.
That's right.
Because you'll would have been a part. So if you have a green card and you qualify for citizenship, apply for citizenship.
Yes.
If you have some challenges, maybe you might have been young and some kind of infraction with the law, then seek services.
Yes.
And let's give the number again for Caribbean Immigrant Services.
718-523-2861.
718-523-2861.
2861.
Okay, so you have it there, folks. Caribbean Immigrant Services. You can always reach out and give them a call. Now we are hoping that we could have Mr. Clair on more often and engage in programs like this, because I think this is very informative, and I think the service that you're giving to our community is invaluable. I was reading off. I had to leave off a lot of the accolades.
Oh, no, that's not necessary.
That's not necessary.
For this
I had to, because I would be going on for quite a while, because you're quite an advocate for the rights of our people. And I think you ought to be commended for doing such a splendid job.
Thank you.
So I actually keep up the good work, because especially in the political climate that we find ourselves now, I think that our people are going to need this kind of advice, this kind of information. And so I'm glad that you took the time to come into the studio with us and give us some very, very insightful information. So folks, hope you're able to listen and get from this. If you have any questions and you want to pursue getting documented, getting your citizenship, you can always call Caribbean Immigrant Services. Once again, the number is on the screen below, and you can kind of weed through the maze of what you need to know, what you need to do, because sometimes what we do, and I think is a big mistake, we listen to what this friend tells us and that friend tells us.
The village lawyer.
Yes, the village lawyer who doesn't really know the ins and outs. And then when we're in a pickle, then we realize that we should have just gone to the next sport to somebody who's in that field. So if you ain't out there and you're going through some issues, or you not have to go into issues, but if you want to legitimize your status, you want to get a green card, you have a green card, you want to get citizenship, please reach out to Caribbean Immigrant Services or organizations of that kind. And don't sit on it, folks. Don't sit on it. Don't be complacent, because we're living in some pretty tricky times right now.
Indeed.
And you don't want to yesterday, like Mr. Clair was reading at the beginning, they came for the Muslims, and I wasn't Muslim, so I didn't care. They came for the, and I wasn't that, so I didn't care. So we have to care, because this is a country of immigrants, and most of us either immigrants or children, and you could be next. You really could be next. So we don't want to start a panic, but we're saying instead of panicking, be proactive.
Yes.
Think ahead, and plan and prepare yourself, and network more. Stop just going. You know what I say. We go to work, go to church. We're big in our church, and we're decent folks. We work hard. We're into our families, but we don't let ourselves count.
Well, we have to change that paradigm, because we see where what the folks, especially in the Republican Party, in these local towns and rural towns have been doing, and that is they've been organizing.
Right.
And they go out in order to effectuate change. And they got it.
I mean, who would have thought that we would be sitting where we are today, politically? But we are. Because they're organized.
Yes.
And so I think there's a lesson to be learned in everything, and if there's a lesson to be learned there, that's what that is. But when you organize and you prepare, this is what the outcome could be.
Yeah.
So, is there anything you want to leave the audience with in terms of anything? Is there anything you want to share with the audience?
The whole idea that try to impress on your families back home. The challenges that we face here, and at the same token too, the amount of remittances that we send back home, make sure that the remittance is working and is not just for consumer-oriented stuff, but for stuff that are fundamental and things that can, are what do you call it now, are investable. That's such a word. I'm making up words.
So it's a concept of You feed a man. You give a man a fish. You feed him for a lifetime.
Yes.
You
give
teach
him
him how to fish.
Yes. Yeah. It must be
No,
sustainable.
you give a man a fish. You feed him for a day.
He
You
must-
give him
a rod
teach him how to
as well
fish.
like that. It must be sustainable.
Yes.
You know, so let us recognize, and at the same token, remember too that we are indeed our brother's keepers.
And yes, today for you, tomorrow. Today for you, tomorrow for me. So we have to always think like that. Well, we're hoping that you're going to be a regular on this program and this network, because we service not just the Caribbean community, but our main audience is the Caribbean group. So we do want to bring information like this to them. I think it's very powerful information, and I think knowledge is power. I think when people are knowledgeable about what is there, what to expect, what to do, what not to do, that can only end up with them making better decisions. So we thank you very much for coming on Soulful Scrutiny, and we hope that this will be one of your new homes. That
All
you
right,
come and have these
thank you much.
discussions.
Thank you.
you.
All right.